Thank you for joining this session on social selling. In this coaching session, we will focus on how to network in LinkedIn and improve your chances of making connections. So what is LinkedIn networking, and how can I be effective in making connections with my target companies and contacts? There are many social media platforms that have different methods to connect and follow prospects. With LinkedIn, you can quickly search and find professionals in your target accounts. But the key is to build your connections as wide and deep as possible in order to have more second connections and recommendations appear in your LinkedIn accounts. Through effective networking, you can meet more and connect with more professionals that you ever could in person in an entire lifetime. And it's not difficult to learn these networking techniques, and we will share with you a ton of tips and tactics and best practices to help you build your LinkedIn network. So why is it important to network on LinkedIn? In the past, LinkedIn was used as a virtual resume to connect with prospective employers and just your own close personal connections. But LinkedIn has evolved into the largest global network of professionals to interact. You can literally reach thousands and millions of people through your connections, groups, and posts. And there's no other list or database on the market can give you this much access and detailed information on the professionals in your industry. You can learn a great deal of insight and important information about people you're targeting, who they work with, what they like to share and post, even their personal interests. If you did this the old-fashioned way, you'd have to be face-to-face with each person, take them to lunch, and spend hours asking them questions about their background. LinkedIn makes it fast and easy to learn about your connections and find meaningful ways to work together. Social networking on LinkedIn is all about making first connections. This is the most important step to building your network. There's the easy way and there's the right way. Today, we will walk through some of the key steps to maximize the use of your professional network to gain access to hundreds and thousands of people around the world. Whether you decide to be very tactical in your research and engagement with potential professional contacts, or you prefer to find something in common personally and professionally, LinkedIn can guide you in the right direction, as long as you know where to look. We will talk about first and second connections and how to leverage each one. We will then talk about sending invites and personalized messages to new connections. Next, we will focus on searching and finding the right individuals within your target companies, including decision makers. Last, we will share some tips on cleaning out old requests and staying within the LinkedIn limits and tracking who's viewing your messaging. Now let's get started with first connections. In this first lesson, we will show you how to research your first connections. First connections are those professionals who have already agreed to accept your invitation on LinkedIn. They could be friends, family, former coworkers, current colleagues, customers, or even partners. Once you make first connections, you should always treat them like gold. These first connections are your gateway to an unlimited number of second connections. If your colleague Marshall has 1,000 connections, you are now a second connection to all 1,000 of his contacts. If you build your network to 1,000 first connections and each one of them has 1,000 connections, you are now a second connection with 1 million people. And it doesn't take much time to grow your network exponentially. You can research your first connections to see who they know and potentially ask them to introduce you to someone that you're trying to meet. Now we will spend a few minutes showing you how to research your first connections. The first area we like to view is the number of connections we have in common. So under the highlights section, I can see that I have 1,714 connections in common with Al Marshall because we've worked together for so long and have targeted the same companies. You can click on this number and drill into the connections to see who they are. The next thing we want to view is their total number of connections. And in their profile, you want to click on See Connections on the right-hand side. Many times this says 500 plus. But once you click through, you will see all their connections. Make sure to remove the filter at the top under the connections button in order to see all their connections. Now you can scroll down and see up to 1,000 connections in the search. You can open each connection in a separate tab and request them to connect with a custom message. You're looking for something in common to leverage in your introduction, or you can use standard messaging provided by your marketing or sales leadership team. Please follow these steps in LinkedIn to research your first connections. In this second lesson, we will show you how to research your second connections. Once you've created your base of first connections with your friends, family, coworkers, and clients, you should have a ton of second connections available to you. Before you get started, you will need to understand the limits that LinkedIn imposes on accounts, and these limits are always changing. At this time, the limit on connection requests appears to be under about 500 for free accounts. There are also triggers if you send too many standard connections in a day. I would recommend staying below about 50 invites each day. If you decide to use the free premium trial, your limit will be higher. And with Sales Navigator, you can have up to 2,800 outstanding requests in your My Network, pending invitations, and the sent box. If you get too many people who click "I don't know this person," your account could be temporarily locked from adding new connections. So it's important that you're strategic about who you connect with. You want to target the person with a value-based message to increase your chances of them accepting. And we'll review that technique shortly. You can also look for personal or social ways to connect with someone that you have something in common. You may also be able to leverage your first connections and ask them to introduce you. So let's get started and find some second connections. You can perform a broad search at the top of the LinkedIn menu by searching for people without adding any text in the search box. You can then filter by second connections. I can now see that I have 516,000 second connections. I can select the additional filters on location or companies, or select the filters and narrow down my search. Once you open the second connections profile, take the time, read their headline, their summary, their experience, their interests. I would always recommend clicking on their activity. This section shows their posts and any other articles they have liked or shared. And this could provide some valuable information on how active they are on LinkedIn and topics that you could leverage to begin a conversation. In this exercise, please follow these steps in LinkedIn to research your second connections. In this third lesson, we will show you how to prepare a customized connection request. Building your network is just like a snowball gaining momentum rolling down a steep slope. It can take time to get up to speed, but it can grow rapidly in size. And the key is to send personal messages with your invitation requests. You can use the default message, "Please join my network," but research has found that your effectiveness can decrease by up to 80%. Spending a few extra minutes to craft some custom messages is well worth the time. For example, you can start with a compelling business reason or insight that you want to share. Let's say you're inviting connections from a specific company, like a government agency or a contract or an engineering firm working on a large capital project. You could use that custom message and send it to 30 people in one shot. Make sure that your message focuses on how you will provide value to them and ask them to please accept me into your network. You will learn that not everyone is active on LinkedIn daily, and it may take some time for someone to accept your requests. Build your connections and wait for them to accept. If they do accept, send them a simple thank you. If they respond with a message, try to respond within a couple hours. Avoid spamming them with your sales message right away. That can turn them off and result in them blocking or even reporting you as a spammer. Let's look at some sample messages. The standard default message is all about you. Please join my network. And it's very self-centered and it may not be very effective. At any time, you can modify the standard message to be specific to that person. Check out this custom message that helped me add more than 375 connections at Trimble in just over a month. I shared something that I had in common. I used to work for an acquired company. I also shared that I'm working with them today. And last, I shared my 20 plus years of industry expertise that could be valuable to them. Finally, I asked to join their network, essentially asking permission to be part of their personal connections. This message was so effective, I used it as a template to target other individuals at other companies with just small adjustments. Create some standard messages and test them out. I like to say rinse and repeat. If it works, use it again. If it doesn't work, switch it up. In this exercise, please follow these steps in LinkedIn to prepare your customized connection requests. In this fourth lesson, we will show you techniques to build your network. Now that you've refined your custom messages, how do you select your targets? If you're in sales, you probably have a target account list assigned to you by sales management or marketing. Even with these assigned lists, have you taken the time to determine the right company and contact profile? Searching the company in LinkedIn can give you summary information, employee counts, headcount statistics, recent updates, and employee connections. You can also start to see how many second connections you have in that company. If you have limited connections, you can start at the bottom and pick low-hanging fruit or connections that will be more likely to connect with you. Once you gain more connections, now you can move into mid and senior management and up the executive team. If you use Sales Navigator, you can get more information and saved accounts and contacts as well as leads. There are also more research tools that we will cover in another session. Once you've identified the companies that you want to target, you can now focus on the specific roles and personas that you want to engage with on LinkedIn. Your sales and marketing organizations may have already provided you with a list, but LinkedIn allows you to learn more than just their title and their phone number. If you're working with large organizations that have thousands of employees, this can be challenging. For each of your target companies or industries, determine the titles and positions that are common. For a project management organization, for example, your target profiles could include a senior project manager, a director of IT, a regional business development manager, a VP of construction, and a principal owner. You can also look on the company's websites to find the names and titles of those individuals. The next step is to search for these roles in that company and see if you have second connections. You can also use Sales Navigator to filter your search results and tag these contacts. Once you find the right decision makers, how do you get them to connect with you? Remember this tip. The more second connections you have before you target these decision makers, the better your chance of connecting. You can also leverage their second connections to start a conversation and gain some intelligence to include in your invite. I like to reach out to our common connections and see what they know about that person's company. You can learn a great deal about their challenges and business drivers for that year. Connecting with lower level employees is much lower risk and helps you to prepare your message before you reach out to an executive sponsor. You can also look for their peers in the industry or your existing clients to learn what might be valuable to them. Again, you may want to lead with an important insight or something of value in your connection request to gain their attention. In this exercise, please follow these steps in LinkedIn to build your network. In this lesson, we will show you some additional capabilities in LinkedIn. A good habit to adopt is to clean out your invites once per month. For Sales Navigator, the limit appears to be 2,800 invitations outstanding or in your sent box, and this limit is much lower for free accounts. Once someone accepts your request, it is removed from the sent queue. If your account gets blocked, you may need to get this number below 800 invites so that it resets. Avoid getting blocked by sending too many invitations in a single day. I like to keep mine below 50 new invites per day. And remember, some professionals are only on LinkedIn maybe every couple weeks or even later, so give it time. As you send your invitations, they will start to accumulate in your sent box. Once a month or so, you will need to clean out your old invites. I would recommend removing invites that are older than 2 months. You can access this LinkedIn mailbox by clicking on My Network in the top menu. You can then click on Manage All in the pending invitation bar, then select the Sent box, and this will show you all pending invitations. Each invitation will also show you the message that you used to invite the contact and how long ago it was sent. I have found that once you withdraw the request, you can resend a new request within a couple hours. And if you keep a list of the ones you withdraw that you want to re-engage, you can always come back and re-invite them. A great feature in LinkedIn is the ability to see who is reading your messages. Once they are a first connection, you can send them follow-up messages in your inbox. You may want to thank them for accepting your request or add a short comment to engage them socially. At the bottom of the message, you will be able to see a small icon that is their profile picture that indicates when they have viewed your message. That is a great way to know if they're reading your messages or not. In this message example that I sent to an entire sales team, I can see that 7 people actually viewed the message. What a great way to get confirmation on your outreach and communication. Now let's get started with the workshop portion of the coaching session, helping you network with specific professionals. In this exercise, please follow these steps in LinkedIn to clean out old requests. In this exercise,